Well, CCTV's Jane Q has been following this election closely for us, and she joins us now live from Kampala. Jane, tell us, how is vote counting coming along so far, and what is the atmosphere like on the ground?
Well, Lindy, it's meant to be a normal day after voting yesterday, but it's not really business as usual. As you can imagine, people are glued to their TVs and radios, trying to follow updates, particularly from the Electoral Commission, which has been giving provisional results at least since last night. But like you mentioned there, where we are is one of the polling stations where voting was extended yesterday. Right now, there are no queues. People voted early. Some are still coming in one by one. We expect voting to continue until 4 p.m. But like I told you, we've got figures and numbers that the Electoral Commission has been releasing since last night and this morning. And Lindy, there are not really surprises here. It's it was widely predicted. It's a two-horse race between the incumbent Yoweri Museveni and the FDC's Kizza Besigye. Now, the latest figures put Museveni on the lead with 2.2 million votes received against Kizza Besigye's 1.2 million. Now, another contender who was also considered to be one of the main contenders, that's the former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi, is a distant third with just over 60,000 votes. Again, these are just results, preliminary results from 10,000 polling stations out of the 28,000 polling stations. So we've got about 18,000 more to go. We'll still have to wait for these ones to be counted, and the Electoral Commission still says that the final tally, the final results, will be announced tomorrow evening. Lindy?
Well, we know, of course, Jane, that the opposition is claiming that there may have been rigging. They are concerned about some of the processes and how they were handled yesterday. Tell us, what are observers saying regarding how these polls were conducted?
Well, we've not had any official statement from the observers, any of the observer missions represented here, but we are getting information that they will be giving their verdict. Most of them will be giving their verdicts tomorrow. But those we spoke to yesterday and today, they were happy that the elections were peaceful. But again, they were worried by the delays. Again, Lindy, we were talking about 6 to 7 hours delay and even into a second day. Some of them were also expressing their concerns over the shutdown of the social media sites. They said this was an infringement of freedom, of the freedom of people. But of course, the government has defended the move, saying that the platforms were being used by politicians. They were abusing the platforms, particularly targeting the young people to raise tension in the country. In the words of President Museveni, he said that they were being used to tell lies, and they shut down the social media platforms as a security measure. Lindy?
Thank you so much for that update. Jane Q, live for us there in Kampala, Uganda, closely following developments in the country's presidential election. Now let's return to the news from South Sudan and developments there. As we mentioned earlier, there has been an attack, at least clashes rather, within a UN compound in the country. And of course, as we understand, South Sudan's military is now beginning to withdraw its forces from Juba. And this, of course, is one of the conditions of the peace agreement. Well, for some analysis on these latest developments, we're now joined by John Gashia, a journalist and an expert. He's here with us in our Nairobi studio. Now, of course, John, let's start with the fact that Riek Machar has insisted that he won't be returning to Juba until this demilitarization is complete. And he's also talking about the implementation of various security arrangements in that peace agreement. Do you think his demands are valid?
Yes, Linda, they are, to the extent that one of the key questions in South Sudan is security and guarantees. And I think for Dr. Riek Machar to demand to be given security assurances and also to be guaranteed that what we call the security sector reforms will be implemented is one of the key things. It's a genuine demand.
Well, on the other hand, though, John, we're hearing, of course, that presidential spokesman Ateni Wekateni is saying that if he stays away for more than a week, the president might be forced to form a partial government. What might this mean then for the peace process?
My own take is that they're trying to put pressure on Riek and also to gain an advantage, political, diplomatic and public outreach advantage, and also to put pressure on Riek Machar to be able to take the lead. And it's a very interesting development in relation to that. In the past, it was always put that the government of South Sudan was not really keen on the peace process. And now here we have the government saying, here we are ready, we are willing, and we are not going to be delayed.
Well, the other concern, of course, is that tensions remain high in South Sudan. We just reported a little earlier on the fact that at least 18 people were killed in clashes at a UN compound in the country. What kind of measures are in place to deal with outbursts of this kind?
Lindy, that is the biggest problem in South Sudan at the moment, in that perhaps the key players, Riek Machar and President Salva Kiir, we are not so sure that they have within themselves the control of certain militia groups, certain groups that are operating outside the mainframe. And those are the issues that need to be addressed very fast and more detailed with regard to disarmament, demobilization and reintegration as part of the larger security sector reforms.
It absolutely seems like a rather delicate piece there. Well, thank you very much for that analysis. John Gashir joining us live in our Nairobi studio.